is Lauren, and this is my one-year financial update. I'm going to talk about my original goals from last year and give you an update on those goals. Did I meet them or did I fail? I'm going to show you my debt confessional and my current expenses, as well as my very, very basic budget. I am then going to talk about some of the things I learned over the last year and talk about some new goals. So I was debt-free when I purchased my home in 2022. When I bought the house, I knew I would be making additional investments in the house. Unfortunately, it didn't stop there. I also accumulated personal debt, including buying a car. In October of 2023, I had reached the end of my financial rope. I had no money and essentially no more available credit. Now my credit score was fine, but really I had no room for any more payments, and I knew I had to fix that. I have been in debt before and had also gotten out of it before. I knew I could get out of debt again. You know, in preparation, you could say, of this new plan. I watched hundreds of budgeting and finance videos, and I read a few books, so I knew where I needed to get started. Previously, when I had been in debt, I followed Dave Ramsey pretty much exclusively, and so whenever I think about budgeting and financing, that's the image that immediately comes to mind. Looking at things from a different perspective has really been a challenge, knowing that there are other points of view out there. But honestly, the problem I have with Dave Ramsey's program is that obviously I failed at it, you know, and so I felt like that was probably an option and definitely groundwork for getting started, but you know, like a base. But I felt like I definitely needed to do something different from what I've currently been doing. And so that's really why I started watching other people's videos on budgeting and finance and whatnot. I didn't just want to fix my finances for myself, I also wanted to fix them for my son. I knew I was setting a terrible example for him. Thankfully, I had not messed up his finances. I am responsible for his finances. He is autistic and considered disabled. He relies on me to make sure all of his needs are met. And that has, if I've gotten anything else right, I got that right. And so I really felt like that there's not much point in getting his finances, you know, in order if mine are messed up. I know that this right now is a good time to double down on helping my son learn more about finances as well as my own. And when I say it was a good time, I'm talking about back in October of last year when I restarted my financial journey. I knew it was a priority to teach him as much as I possibly could, considering that I myself was terrible at my own finances. And so he has a very hard time understanding numbers, and then when you add finances on top of it, it's just that much harder. But I've been working with him, and as time has gone by, I feel like he's learning some. However, we all understand that ultimately he will always need help with his finances, but I still wanted him to know as much as he could possibly know about his finances. I was ashamed of myself, and I was afraid I'd die and leave a disgusting legacy behind me. I knew that my family would learn of my financial situation after my death, and I didn't want anyone to know my secret. I knew that if I didn't stop the cycle that I was in, things were only going to get worse. And now it's been 1 year later, and overall things are better, but it has been a very challenging year. At one point, I just can only say I just basically gave up because it just really seemed like every step ahead I made, there was some kind of financial problem, and ultimately I'd backslide, and I've paid off debt, and I overall my finances are better than what they were, but they are still pretty bad. And in some regards, I have lines of credit now that I didn't have back then, or I have debt now that I didn't have back then. So anyway, it's taken a lot of energy and effort, but I like to say that I'm back on track. Might be an uphill climb, but at least I'm on the track. So starting in October of 2023, I made a spreadsheet of my checking account spending to get a good idea about what I was spending my money on. I was spending it on regular expenses and whatnot, and my debt, but I found that, and I knew it even before I made my spreadsheet, I spent an obscene amount of money on hobbies, and I knew that had to stop. And even though my spending was less on hobbies this past year, I still spent way too much money on hobbies. And my main hobby is sewing, so I'm kind of a fabric collector, and I just spent way too much money on fabric, and fabric these days is incredibly expensive. So anyway, I made a basic budget. I made some changes. I enrolled in a less expensive health insurance plan, and I put less money into my healthcare savings account. I decided to create a sinking fund for car insurance. I paid off my lowest credit card debt immediately. I decided to stop using my other credit cards. And I decided I was going to use cash as much as possible. So I'm going to keep track of all of my spending. And these are decisions I made in October of 2023. So everything sounds like it's in present tense, but present as of October 2023. So I decided I was going to try to sell some stuff, and I was going to save 2 months of expenses, and I was going to save $1,000 for emergencies, and that I would document how much debt that I have every day, and I will make additional debt payments. So actually, this is not the entire list. This is just kind of the main items. So how did I do? I made a spreadsheet, and I did that, and I did the budget. I enrolled in the less expensive health insurance plan, and lowered my healthcare savings account contributions. I tried doing the sinking fund for the car insurance, but I just failed. I ended up needing that money for other things that came up. I did pay off my lowest credit card debt, and I did not stop using my other credit cards. I used cash as much as I could, but honestly, the only thing I went shopping for, like groceries, and I would use my debit card for that. It was just using cash just really wasn't viable, because I really only went shopping a couple of times a month at Walmart for groceries and household supplies and whatnot. So it's not like I would go out to eat and use cash, because I stopped going out to eat. It's like when I stopped getting my hair cut. I stopped doing things that one might spend cash on, and I just wasn't doing those things anymore. So I just didn't really have much opportunities for spending just cash. I tried to keep track of all of my spending, but it's like I made a mistake in that I would, like have one day or maybe 2 days where I'd write down all of the things I spent money on, which really was just the one thing, which was, going to Walmart for the most part. And it just was like, it was something I needed to do every day, even if I didn't spend anything, and I didn't do that. I did it like maybe once a week, and I just was not consistent. I did manage to sell a couple of things, but not very many things. I didn't really have too many things to sell. No, nothing that anybody really wanted. I didn't really make a bunch of money selling stuff. I did, like I said, I sold a couple things. I was not even close to cutting 2 months of expenses. I barely was able to save $1,000 for emergencies. And as soon as I had any kind of extra money in my savings account, I mean, there would be something. I almost felt like I was jinxing myself or something. I don't know. I did document my debt, if not every day, then every other day, 5 or 6 times a week, 4 or 5, 6, as often as I could. Especially if I'd made a debt payment, I would add up the totals for all of my debts. And I loved doing that. It was really very empowering to see that number go down. What was terrible was when it went back up again. So great, but not great. And I did make additional debt payments at the same time that I was creating more debt. So here's my debt confessional. So my mortgage was $360,000 at 4% interest. Minimum payments $2,101.82. That includes the escrow. When I bought my house, I actually took a 401k loan out. Basically, I call it a second mortgage. It was $50,000 basically for the down payment on the house at 4.25%. Minimum payments $375.92 per month. I bought a car loan. So now I have a car loan. I had an older CRV that was struggling. It was like 20 years old, and one day I was just like, I just got another car, I just got another car, and I did not have to do that. I decided to do it. Anyway, it's a 2021 Subaru. It's a nice enough car. But anyway, the loan is $30,716 at 7.64%. My payment's $534.86 per month. When I bought the house, I knew it needed work, and I put a lot of money into the house. So it was, like I said, when I bought the house, I didn't have any debt. But then when I bought the house, I went deeply into debt, making basically repairs to the house, updates and whatnot. So I had to get a new HVAC system, and it was $22,297 at 10%, $295 a month payment. I had to get some plumbing done. Yeah, I'm still boggled that I spent $20,652 on plumbing. And even now I'm like, what did they do for that much money? I cannot even picture it. I think that the HVAC system, I guess the price was, I don't know, maybe it was good enough, maybe it was average, but I am pretty sure that the money I paid for the plumbing, that's like plumbing for an entire house. And I don't know, but I think I might have been ripped off. If not for one, then definitely for both of them. Maybe. I don't know, I just try not to even think about it. But it's also 10%, $273 per month. I had to get all the windows replaced, and got them through Lowe's. That was $17,854. 7% interest, $424.50 per month. I got a personal loan in December of 2023 to help pay off a credit card. And the personal loan was $12,000 to help pay off the Citibank credit card, which is down at the bottom. The interest rate's 11.25%, $405 per month. I also have just a regular credit card that I use for personal stuff, grocery shopping and clothes and fabric and whatever. So the original balance was $8,066. It's at 17.24%. Actually, I have $100 down as a minimum monthly payment, but that's not what it was. It was actually closer to $400 at the time. $100 is what I'm currently paying. So the Synchrony credit card was for a sewing machine I had purchased, and that's the one I paid off. The very first debt I paid off was the credit card I got when I bought a sewing machine. It was $3,600. I only owed like $1,700 on it when I paid it off. 0% financing. And then I had to paint the house. I live in an HOA, and also some of this debt is from doing yard work. The HOA has sent me probably 7 letters since I moved in here, and probably 6 of them were for the grass. And I have spent a lot of money trying to take care of the grass, and it just drives me crazy. But I also had to paint the house, and it cost me $6,000, so I got a credit card for that at 0%. I'm paying about $100 a month right now, but I have plans to increase that because I have to have it. The 0% goes away in September of next year, so I have a year to pay it off from now, a year from now. The last one is Citibank credit card. Originally it was $12,272. Is at 29.49%. At the time, the payments were about $400, $500 a month, I think. And now it's not. But at the time when I owed $12,000 on it, it was $405 a month, I believe is what it was. I ended up getting a personal loan to pay off the credit card. Unfortunately, I did not cancel the credit card, so I ended up using it again, which is typical and stupid, I know. So my original debt balance that goes back to March of 2022 is $531,458.20. And I have the minimum payment here is $4,809, but it was actually probably $5,300. Yeah, it was terrible. Okay. So this is kind of an update here. So when I started in October, my total debt was $504,288.96. And so you can see where my debts were when I started. I didn't have the personal loan when I started, and I didn't have the Chase credit card when I started. So now I paid off probably $20,000 between October and May. October 2023 and May 2024, I paid off about $20,000. So I got down to $484,000. And then I had to do all this. I did this other stuff with the house, primarily getting the house painted, which increased my debt by $6,000. So I went from 484 to about 490 very quickly. And then I got really discouraged, and I ended up buying a laptop. It was like, I don't know, $1,500. my laptop wasn't working, so of course I justified getting a new one. And anyway, so this is where I'm at now. October of 2024, my mortgage has been paid down by about $6,202. My 401k loan I paid off about almost $2,500. I've paid off about $4,278 for my car. My HVAC it's awful. The HVAC and the plumbing, together it's not even $2,600 I've paid off. The windows have paid down about $4,500. The personal loan started out at $12,272, is now at $9,100. I've paid off just over $3,000 on that. And my personal credit card, I've paid it down over $4,000, about half of it. Let's see, the house, I've just only made for a few payments on it because it was just in May that I painted the house, so I've only paid about $400 on it. And the Citibank credit card, which I had to go to visit. I had to go travel to see my mom. She was needed some company, and then I bought the laptop. So those are the two things I used for that Citibank card. I owe about $4,000 on it now. So anyway, I've paid off $19,388.42 in the last year. But really, that's about how much I'd paid off between October and May. And then it went up. And now it's back down to, so I've paid off another essentially $6,000, I guess, just in the last few months. So that's that. So this is a list of my monthly household expenses, and not all of them happen every month. We got, food and gas and, just the regular stuff. But I don't always have a bill for my lawn care every month, and I don't always have like gifts and donations. In fact, I basically stopped giving money to church or to anybody else. I have hobbies and entertainment on there, just to be honest. I really have cut back on spending money on my hobbies, but I do sometimes buy something. I admit it, I still buy fabric, considering how much I've actually gotten rid of. I've actually given away moving boxes, those plastic tub moving boxes. I've given away probably 12 of those boxes full of fabric. It's awful. So anyway, those are my basic monthly household expenses, totaling about $1,324 a month. And these are my annual expenses. HOA dues, car insurance, life insurance, car registration and taxes, my umbrella policy, my NRRPT membership, and tax preparation totals about $3,382. If I had $281.85 a month available to save for it, I would. It's definitely something that I've tried to do over the last year, but I've just not been successful at it. So here's some infrequent but expected expenses, shoes and clothing, which minimal amount spent on that. But when I do buy something, it's like, heck, bras and underwear, expensive stuff, shoes, expensive, jeans, expensive, everything, clothing is expensive. So it's just, but you need those things. You need shoes, for goodness sakes. Anyway, medical expenses, I have $2,400 written down because that's my annual deductible, and I have $200 a month going to my HSA, so it kind of works out. Excuse me. For car maintenance, really the only thing I get done is oil changes right now, but I'll have to get, sorry about my voice, something's happening to it. I don't know what's happening to my voice, I'm sorry. It's so weird. So, so I have, hold on a second, I need to get some water. I don't know if it'll help, but I got some water. So I was told that my car has been a disappointment to me. Right after I bought it, I had to get the battery replaced. It was $400. I was so mad. I had just bought the car. In less than 6 months, I had to get a new battery. And they didn't even care. The dealership, they were like, you know, whatever. Anyway, while I was there getting an oil change, I called in advance to find out how much it would be, and they told me it was $100. So I brought $100 cash, and at the end of it, they told me it was $107. And I told the lady, I said, I called, and you guys told me it was $100. And she said, well, we got this disposal fee. And I said, well, it would have been nice if you guys had told me that before I came here. You know, because you know what they do is if you pay in cash, they give you, well, you know, they don't charge you the credit card fee, right? There's a fee for you if you use a credit card or a debit card. So if you use cash, they don't charge you that fee, obviously. So I brought the amount that they told me to bring. And I just happened to have an additional $10 there with me. So I was able to pay it, but I was so annoyed. Anyway, while I was there, they of course told me that I need to get something called differentials checked. And I should expect to replace my tires by the time the next oil change came around. And I was like, this can be crazy expensive for those things. You know, I looked up the cost, you know, for the tires and to get these differentials checked. It's like almost $2,000 for everything. You know, for the tires, you know, $300-400 a piece, plus this check with the differentials. But anyway, moving on. House maintenance. My house could still use some work. When I moved in, I had some electrical work done. I had the gutters put on, you know, replaced. They were coming off. They were literally coming off the side of the house. You know, I did a lot of work when I bought this house, but even right now, I can think of 10 things I would like to do to update it and make it better. But I haven't done anything I didn't have to do, except for, of course, in January, the toilet broke, and it was a somewhat of a urgent situation, maybe not an emergency, but urgent anyway. Thankfully, it was my son who found it in the middle of the night. He got up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and when he went into the bathroom, the toilet, there was water all over the floor. So the toilet tank had cracked. And thank God he looked up on YouTube to figure out what he needed to do to fix it. Can you believe it? The guy just blows my mind sometimes. You know, he did this on his own in the middle of the night. I was so impressed with him for that. So they showed him where to turn the water off underneath the tank and to flush the toilet so all the water would drain out of the tank. I was so impressed with him. So impressed with him. So grateful that he did that. I mean, he could have woken me up, it would have been fine. I was still very impressed with him. So for lawn maintenance, once again, I live in an HOA and they enjoy sending out hate mail. I have spent a lot of money on my yard since I moved in here. And they send me a letter about every 3 months or so telling me that my yard doesn't look good enough. So I ended up hiring a landscaping company to come out and do whatever it is they do. It's just sickening. So I put down travel because I just cannot expect to never travel again. My family lives on the other side of the country from me. My mom is getting up there in years, and sometimes I need to go out there. Um, as much as I love Christmas, I hate spending money on it, but I got a son, a child to buy gifts for, and ultimately I usually end up getting something or sending money to my mom and sister. Then of course there's always the unexpected. You can always expect the unexpected. And altogether I put down $14,200, but the God's honest truth is I don't have that. I end up using a credit card for it every time. That's what it comes down to. So in regards to income, my regular job pays, my take-home pay is about $5,840 a month. My son contributes about $600 a month. He does have a job. It's you know like a minimum wage type of job. Works about 20-25 hours a week, but he also gets SSDI, so he's able to contribute a little bit to the household expenses. And it's not always $600 a month. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's a little more. But basically, I put down my income as being $6,440 a month. During the year, I will sometimes get a little bit of extra money. Sometimes I get a little bit of overtime or I get a bonus. I also have an income tax return usually. And sometimes I make a little bit of extra money, selling stuff or sewing things for people. So I put down an additional $8,100 a year for that. So this is my extremely basic budget. I'm not going to rehash everything I'd already put up on the screen. But basically my household expenses, about $1,334 a month. Debt payments, including the mortgage, was $4,809 a month. And the savings, $297 a month, but that's just basically for covering just, unexpected things or annual expenses, or just, some months they're just, sometimes the household expenses are more than other months. So some of the lessons I've learned over the last year, first of all, I suck at budgeting. I suck at budgeting, debt payoff, cash stuffing. I'd imagined I'd be much better at it, but I suck at it. I did a very good job taking care of my son's finances and trying to teach him about finances, and I would say that even though I suck at finances, I did a better job at setting an example for him, a good example, a better example. And I was able to pay off some debt, thank God, and I did save $1,000 for my emergency fund. I was successful at creating new accounts to make paying bills easier. So for example, I set up a mortgage checking account, and I also set up another checking account for my car payment. So that's been a huge relief. That's been beyond helpful. I also have a cash card that I use for paying for gas and automobile expenses. So when I started out, I was too aggressive, but I put myself in a financial difficulty when I needed more cash than I had on hand, which ultimately led to more debt. I learned to accept that I have to spend more money on my yard, including watering it, or I'm going to keep getting mail from the HOA. I just despise paying my money on my yard. It's just, I just hate it. I hate watering the yard. The water is wasted, and it takes time to water the grass. It's just, I hate it. It's, I'll stop. Okay. I am torn about investing in long or short-term insurance, short-term, long-term care insurance. I really don't have any extra money for it, but I'm afraid that when I'm old, I won't have any money to pay for my elder expenses. I did actually buy some short-term insurance, but I don't think I'm going to keep it. It's just money it's just another bill I don't have money to pay. And I don't want to use any of my retirement money for, nursing home expenses or whatever, but I mean, this is just the bed that I've made, and so this is how it is going to be for me. I just either will have to die before I get to that point, or just I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. But I've heard horror stories about people in their 80s and 90s just losing every last penny they have for long-term care insurance. It's scary, but honestly, I don't actually have any extra money to pay for either long or short-term insurance. It's a conundrum. So immediately after I started my journey in October 2023, I suffered financial setbacks, including having to replace the toilet, like I said, and then having to pay the house, paint the house. And this was very discouraging, and I just wanted to quit. It was very hard to stay motivated after May. So I was definitely not on the wagon for the summer. I stopped giving money to my church or making other donations. I feel bad about it, but my heart really wasn't into it, so I couldn't justify it. I want to start making donations again. I just can't do the hundreds of dollars a month that I feel like I should as a member of a church. I actually stopped going to church altogether, actually, because of it. I had stopped contributing to my 401k, but decided to resume because at the rate that I'm going, I would never have my debt paid off anyway, so it just seemed kind of stupid to stop putting money into my retirement. I figured that maybe when I go into retirement, hopefully I won't have any debt, but at least I will have money in my retirement accounts by the time I get there, And it's been awesome seeing that the amount of money I have in my accounts increase over the last year. It's been great. I always feel like I need to get a second job, but it just really isn't feasible for me. I'm not making excuses, but finding a part-time job for just nights and weekends is harder to do than one might think. I've looked into online jobs, but most look like scams or have something to do with selling insurance or something else. I really just don't have any qualifications that might get me a second job. I think about it every day, but my regular full-time job is actually kind of a 24-hour-a-day job. I have to be available for what they call emergency response, and having a second job just really does not make it feasible. I just like if I am working a second job, even if it's at McDonald's or the grocery store or something like that, and then there was an emergency, I would have to leave. And I just don't know that other employers would be real thrilled with that. So I was able to cut back on several expenses, such as not getting my hair done. I gave up a storage unit. I don't eat out as often as I used to. I buy less stuff for my hobbies. I've really cut back on the types of groceries that I buy. I stopped buying coffee. I stopped buying cheese. I stopped buying most packaged products. I really just try to keep it basic, meat and vegetables, try to reduce my expenses as much as I can. I stopped investing in my house unless it was like an emergency. And, there are 10 things right now I can think of that I would like to do to the house. But once again, I got a cash card, American Express Bluebird cash card for my gas. I have a direct deposit to this cash card, and I use it to pay for gas. And every week there's a little bit left over, and as time goes by, that balance builds up so that when I need an oil change or something like that, I got money. It's kind of like a sinking fund on a cash card. So there are a few other things, but I guess that's mostly it. So here are some new goals. It's been great seeing my retirement balances increase. I hope to increase my contribution to 6% next year, which will get me the company match. I plan to pay off at least $36,000 in debt in 2025. I will keep building up my savings. I really want to get up to $5,000 by the end of 2025. And I'm going to keep working with my son on his finances. And I'm going to keep working on my budget and keeping track of my expenses and that sort of thing. So I guess that's it. Thank you for listening to me talk about my finances. Sorry about my voice going hoarse there. That was weird. The purpose of this exercise is to help me focus on my finances, so I'll be more responsible for all aspects of it. But I also hope that you found it somewhat interesting. All right. Well, I guess that's it. Once again, thanks for listening to me. Y'all have a great day. Okay. Bye-bye.